There's something different about you. You've always known it. Maybe you couldn't quite put your finger on it, but deep in your being, in the quiet places of your soul, you've sensed that you weren't just another person in this world. You felt like you were born for something greater, and not in the egoic, boastful sense. It's more like a sacred responsibility, an ancient pull that whispers to your spirit, you are here to connect what has long been separated. You are not just a seeker. You are a bridge, a rare kind of chosen one, someone who didn't come here to pick a single path, but to unify many. You carry within you the codes of multiple spiritual lineages, cultures, and unseen forces, not to dominate, but to harmonize. These signs are not just metaphors or vague affirmations. They are real. And if even one of them resonates deeply, you may be one of the rare few meant to weave together the fragmented threads of humanity's spiritual fabric. The first sign is that you've never fully belonged. No matter where you go, no matter how deeply you try to integrate into a particular community, ideology, or belief system, there's always a part of you that remains on the edges. You could be in a Buddhist temple, a church, a Sufi gathering, or a New Age retreat, and still feel like you're not entirely of it. But here's the twist. You're not an outsider because you lack depth or authenticity. You're an outsider because you carry the DNA of all of them. You're not supposed to fit perfectly into one path. You're designed to walk all of them in your own unique way. That estrangement you felt, it's sacred. It's the soul's way of preventing you from getting trapped in one narrative. You are the one who drinks from many rivers and still thirsts only for truth. Have you ever considered why your spiritual journey has been so nonlinear? Most people follow a path. You, on the other hand, weave them. One moment you're diving into ancient Egyptian mysticism, the next you're studying quantum consciousness or fasting in the desert like a prophet. Some might say you're scattered, but in truth, you're being trained in spiritual multilingualism. You are learning how to speak the language of energy, spirit, and matter in a way few can, and it's not random. There is a divine intelligence pulling the strings behind every book you've read, every teacher you've encountered, every breakdown you've had. The chaos has actually been choreography. And if you look closely, there's a sacred symmetry to it all. The second sign is your ability to see the hidden unity behind apparent contradictions. Most people struggle to reconcile opposites. They feel they must choose between science and spirituality, logic and intuition, masculine and feminine, light and dark. But not you. You understand, perhaps not always with your rational mind, but with your soul, that these dualities are not enemies. They are lovers in disguise, dancing in tension to create something greater. You feel it in your bones that God is in both the stillness and the storm. You can walk into a church and feel the presence of Christ, then enter a psychedelic ceremony and feel the same divine pulse in the drumbeat. You don't see competition between paths, you see echoes. You don't just tolerate paradox, you thrive in it. And this is what makes you a bridge. Not someone who compromises between extremes, but someone who shows that the extremes are just reflections of a deeper unity.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
Now, let me ask you something that may shake your soul. What if your entire life has been preparing you to hold a spiritual tension that most people can't handle? The emotional ups and downs, the dark nights, the ecstatic highs, the sudden awakenings, they weren't just personal. They were initiations. Your heart has been stretched to become a container for the great opposites of the universe. You've been trained to be the silence in the middle of the storm, the still point where contradictions kiss. This isn't poetic fluff. It's a sacred technology. In a world increasingly divided, you are the sacred in-between where healing can happen. The third sign is that you attract people from all walks of life almost magnetically. Shamans, atheists, Christians, witches, scientists, mystics, skeptics, they all feel comfortable around you, even if they don't always understand why. You hold an energy that feels safe and familiar to everyone, even if their ideologies clash. That's because your soul doesn't speak to their beliefs, it speaks to their essence. You bypass the ego and speak directly to the eternal part of them. This is not something you do. It's something you are. It's not about charisma or manipulation. It's about resonance. Your presence reminds people of something ancient and eternal. You might not even notice it, but when you walk into a room, people shift. They open. They soften. And it's not because you're trying to be impressive. It's because your energy carries the frequency of the sacred middle, the place where all truths can meet without resistance. But here comes the fourth sign, and this one runs deep. You've suffered greatly, and much of it has been invisible. Not just the kind of suffering that's easy to talk about, like relationships or career struggles, but soul-level pain. The kind that makes you question everything. The kind that breaks you open again and again until you have no choice but to surrender. This suffering has not been punishment. It has been preparation, because to be a bridge you must be walked upon. You must learn to hold space for pain so that others can find healing through you. Every time you cracked, light entered, and now you carry that light not as a beacon on a pedestal, but as a quiet glow in the dark corners of human experience. You don't avoid brokenness. You walk into it. Because you've made friends with your own shadow, you can sit with the shadows of others without fear. And this leads us to the fifth sign. You are deeply intuitive, but not in a flashy, performative way. Your intuition is subtle, steady, and often unexplainable. You just know things. You might sense someone's emotions before they speak. You might change course in your life because of a dream, a gut feeling, or a whisper from the unseen. You're not trying to convince anyone of your gifts. You don't need to. Your life is proof. You move with the invisible currents. You trust signs, synchronicities, and inner nudges more than logic at times. And even when you doubt yourself because self-doubt is part of the path, you still keep following the invisible thread. This is how you've survived so far, and it's how you'll fulfill your purpose. So let me ask you something only your soul can answer. Do you remember who you were before the world told you what to be? Not your name, not your identity, but the feeling of being infinite before language, before fear. That version of you is still here, and it's guiding you. Every time you feel out of place, every time life pulls the rug from under you, it's not rejection, it's redirection. It's a message. You were never meant to follow the map. You are the map. You are not here to follow the trail. You are here to blaze it. You are not here to pick a side. You are here to stand in the center. And from that center, you'll do what very few can, unite the scattered pieces of the divine into a vision that heals. There is a fire inside of you. It's not always visible to others, and sometimes even you forget it's there. But in your quietest moments, when the world is silent and your soul begins to speak, you feel it again, that eternal flame that has been burning since before you were born. It's not an ordinary fire. It doesn't consume with rage. It doesn't burn with ego. This fire is sacred. It is the essence of why you're still here, still searching, still rising after every fall. This fire whispers, you are not done yet. You have more to give, more to become. And no matter how many times life has tried to extinguish you, that flame has never gone out. This is the sixth sign of a rare bridge chosen one. You carry a sacred fire that cannot be put out by failure, rejection, betrayal, or even your own moments of despair. You've been through things that would have broken most people. And let's be honest, there were moments when you did break, but you didn't stay broken. You turned the shattered pieces of yourself into stained glass windows that now let the light shine through. That fire inside you is not fueled by success or validation. It's fueled by purpose. It's fueled by the deep knowing that your path matters, even when it makes no sense. And this is the paradox that only you will understand. Sometimes the fire feels like a burden. It keeps you restless. It won't let you settle for a normal life, even when you crave simplicity. It keeps calling you to grow, to evolve, to speak, to heal, to become. It's like you're being pulled by something you can't name but can't resist. And people don't always get it. They'll say, why can't you just be happy with what you have? Or why are you always searching for more? But they don't understand. It's not about more in the material sense. It's about depth. It's about truth. It's about alignment. And your soul knows when you are not in alignment, and it will make you restless until you are. Have you ever noticed that the more you try to suppress this calling, the more life shakes you awake? When you try to live small, life throws a storm at your door. When you try to blend in, you get ripped out of the crowd. That's not punishment. That's the fire refusing to die. It's the divine within you refusing to be silenced. There's a reason your path has required so much inner work. There's a reason you've been forced to confront your fears, your wounds, your shadows. Because only someone who has walked through their own darkness can guide others through theirs. Only someone who has felt the fire can help others find theirs. Now let me ask you something that might stir something ancient in your soul. When was the last time you truly listened to that fire? Not just heard it, but obeyed it. When was the last time you let it guide you without question, even when it made no logical sense? That fire is your connection to the source. It is the compass of your higher self, and when you ignore it, you suffer. But when you honor it, miracles unfold. You've seen this. You've lived this. The synchronicities, the right people showing up at the right time, the sudden clarity that comes out of nowhere, these aren't coincidences. They are confirmations, proof that when you follow the fire, life aligns. And here's the truth most people never realize. The fire isn't just for you. It's meant to light the way for others. You are not just a seeker, you are a wayshar, a torchbearer, a lighthouse in the fog. And not because you have all the answers, but because you have walked through the questions with courage. People feel your fire even when you don't speak. They feel your integrity, your depth, your intention. And in a world full of noise, your presence is the message. So the question is not, do I have the fire? The question is, what am I going to do with it now? The world will always try to divide you. It will say, pick a side. It will demand that you identify, categorize, choose your camp, your tribe, your belief system, your label. It will tempt you with the comfort of certainty and the illusion of safety that comes with belonging to a single narrative. But deep down, you've always known you were never meant to choose a side. You are the sacred middle, the bridge, the point where polarities meet, not to cancel each other out, but to harmonize and reveal a higher truth. From a young age, you could feel the tension between opposing forces not just in the world, but within yourself. You felt the pull of logic and intuition, the masculine and feminine, the urge to create and the need to destroy, the light and the shadow. And while others were quick to align with one end of the spectrum, you stood in the uncomfortable, beautiful, powerful center. Not because you were indecisive, but because you could see what others couldn't, that both sides held truth. And that truth was too big for one container. You, chosen one, are not here to take sides in the spiritual wars. You're here to end them. You are the one who walks into polarized spaces and brings presence. Not answers, not dogma, just presence. And it's that presence that shifts the energy. It's that neutrality, not in the sense of apathy, but in the sense of sacred equilibrium that allows healing to occur. You hold the keys to peace, not because you avoid conflict, but because you transcend it. But holding the middle is not easy. Let's be honest, it's exhausting. You're often misunderstood. People want you to declare allegiance. They want you to validate their worldview. They want you to say, this is right and that is wrong. But your soul resists. You can't lie to yourself just to be accepted. And so you walk a lonely path, not because you're lost, but because you're ahead of your time. You are evolving into a new kind of human, one who no longer needs to divide life into good and evil, us and them, sacred and mundane. You see the divine in everything. You see the divine in everyone. That's what makes you dangerous to the old systems. Because if people stopped fighting and started seeing the divine in each other, those systems would collapse. You're not just a bridge between spiritual traditions, you're a bridge between hearts. You are the living antidote to separation. You don't preach unity. You embody it. You don't just talk about love, you become it. And in your presence, people remember who they are, not the roles they play, not the masks they wear, but the eternal essence beneath it all. Let me ask you something that cuts to the core. Can you hold space for two opposing truths without needing to resolve them? Can you sit in the tension, not as a victim, but as a witness? That's the test of the sacred middle. It's not about compromise. It's about transcendence. It's about becoming so grounded in your own essence that you no longer need the world to be black and white in order to feel safe. You are the one who can walk into a room full of conflict and bring stillness. You are the one who can listen without reacting, speak without attacking, lead without dominating. You are the one who people turn to when everything falls apart. Not because you have all the answers, but because you are the calm in the chaos. You've trained for this not in classrooms or temples, but in the fire of life. In the heartbreak, in the silence, in the spaces between what is and what could be. And now it's time to stop doubting your role. Stop shrinking to fit into molds that were never made for you. You were never meant to blend in. You were never meant to pick a side and stay there. You are the river that flows between the mountains. You are the wind that moves between heaven and earth. You are the sacred space where all forces meet and find harmony. There's something extraordinary about you that even you may not fully understand yet. It's not in your words, although they carry power. It's not in your achievements, though they are meaningful. It's in your presence. Your very being has become a tuning fork that triggers resonance in others. You walk into a room, and without trying, people start to feel things, memories rise, emotions surface, buried truths tremble to be seen. It's not because you said anything profound. It's because you are something profound. You've become a mirror that reflects the parts of people they've forgotten, denied, or were too afraid to embrace. This is the final sign of a rare bridge chosen one. Your presence alone awakens the dormant light in others. You don't need to preach, convert, or convince. You don't need to wear spiritual robes or sit on a mountain. You just show up authentically, vulnerably, humbly, and people begin to remember who they are. Not because you've given them new information, but because your energy whispers, it's safe to be who you are. You don't even have to know how you're doing it. That's the beauty of it. The light in you recognizes the light in them, and that recognition alone is enough to spark transformation. This is why people feel safe to open up to you. Strangers tell you their life stories. Friends come to you when they're lost. And sometimes it feels like a burden. It feels like you're holding too much, carrying too many hearts, being asked to be strong even when you're crumbling inside. But take a breath. This isn't punishment, it's confirmation. You are the lighthouse. You're not responsible for fixing everyone, but your light gives them permission to find their own way. And perhaps the most sacred truth of all is this: your energy carries an ancient memory of unity. People may not consciously understand it, but when they're around you, they feel it. They feel the longing for home, for wholeness. You remind them that before the separation, before the trauma, before the forgetting, we were all one. That's why you're here, not to be worshipped, not to be followed, but to remind you are a living invitation back to authenticity, back to truth, back to source. Have you ever noticed how people shift around you even when you're silent? How your presence either magnetizes or repels? That's not coincidence. Your energy is so clear, so refined, that it instantly reveals what's real and what's false in others. Some are drawn to you like moths to a flame. Others run, not because you've harmed them, but because your light threatens their illusions. And that's okay. Your job isn't to be liked. Your job is to be light. Your job is to be who you are without apology. And in doing so, give others the courage to do the same. So I'll ask you a final question, one that only your soul can answer. Are you willing to fully embody the bridge you were born to be, even if it means standing alone, even if it means being misunderstood, even if it means carrying light into the darkest places? Because the world doesn't need more noise. It doesn't need more certainty. It needs presence. It needs people like you, rare, humble, luminous, who hold the space for awakening without force. You are not here to lead in the old way. You are here to embody a new way, a way of being that heals just by existing, a way of walking that blesses the ground, a way of seeing that dissolves separation. You are the bridge between dimensions, between people, between hearts. And your time is now. Never doubt the power of your presence. Never underestimate the light you carry, because in a world desperate for truth, your authenticity is the greatest miracle of all.